Yo, what's up, legends? Welcome back to another video on the channel. We're going to jump into my new track on rave culture with my brother Skylights and Chris Kiss. This is old school follow-up called East to the West. Really cool theme in this one. Skylights is from China, me and Chris are from the UK, so it's a nice like blend from the east to the west, you know. So the theme is really strong in this one. Old school was such a success for us, like people really loved this sound. My old school big room fans were really pleased with that. It's a super big room, it's just a little bit higher energy, higher tempo. So we decided to make a follow-up, but basically put it on steroids, and I think we did that successfully. So a little bit of an update. I just got back from Asia, some crazy shows, Singapore, Bangkok and Tokyo, celebrating my birthday out there. It was just the best time ever. I love playing out in Asia. Very inspired now for the studio. I know kind of what's working there as well. And this kind of stuff really works there. The faster paced big room stuff really works. So sorry for the absence, but I have been really busy and trying to juggle all these things at once. As always, there's a new sample pack for my Patreon family. Please go and grab that now. The next one will be East to West at the end of this month, the ADE special, I guess. And if you're looking for any project files to take your tracks to the next level, please check out the link in the description for ravereadysamples.com, which is my project file website. Let's get into this project. The drop goes a little bit like this. So the drop basically is old school, but with a little bit more power, I guess. With old school, it was more of a step down melody. The melody kind of stepped down the piano roll, basically. Climb down those notes. This one is da-da-da, da-da-da. It's repetitive. It's just more heavy. It's more heavy drop, basically. We did go melodic in the breakdown, but the drop really was about just pure power here. So let's dissect this project. I think the most important thing here is the leads. Let's jump straight into the leads, because I know you guys, some of you guys, all you care about is leads. So we'll jump into those one by one. We're going to go through these sounds. So this is big room, right? Big room is just layers upon layers. Usually I don't really do that in my new kind of sound, but with this sound, layering really helps. So we have this main sound, and that kind of provides the main tone of this full lead. Now these kind of sounds are more for the ethnic vibe. Not kind of ethnic vibe, but because we're doing like East to the West, I wanted this kind of Asian influence in the drop as well. Bit of tsunami vibe. Bit of epic vibe. Kind of an ugly sound there, but it really helped just make the sound a little bit distorted and full. This one I love. And then next we have some Nexus sounds, because it's important when you're using samples to have some VSTs in there, because it can make the sound more authentic and not just like straight up sampled. Love this one for the tops. Now this tsunami sound is also from Nexus. This is from the Kashmir pack, so again this is going to sound a little bit more smooth than a sample. And that one is just, as I said before, to make the whole sound like it's from a synth. So we have all the sounds together and it sounds pretty fat. Actually, I didn't even use that sound, that synth sound at the end. I think I maybe introduced it later on, but in the beginning of the drop, we just go full on plucky sound, real old school sound. So that is the leads. If we check the processing on these leads, they're all processed exactly the same way, because I'm a lazy boy. So with all of the plugins turned off, the leads sound like this. And with them on, So this just shows how important your processing is. You can take a really thin sound, and make it sound really, really full and heavy and energetic as well. So let's take a look what I did. This is just the standard stuff. I think it's processed similar to old school, but a little bit different. Obviously, this stuff you already know. Blood overdrive, super important here. We've got the EQ, the EQ, the EQ. This is also super important, the transient master. We're making the plucks more sharp. With a plucky sound, I want the transient really to push through. And that's what I did here with the transient master. I'm boosting up the attack so the transient can really push through the mix there. We also have another EQ, obviously, because this is just the way I work, unfortunately. This is important, though. We're taking away the low end from the sound. With a sample, they're all pretty much samples, right? So they've all been kind of processed properly. So I didn't really need to take too much of the low end there because it had already been removed enough. That's something to bear in mind when you're using samples over presets. Presets, usually you need to take more of the low end away. Stereo imager, because I wanted to make it wide. And then we have this mix bus we've kind of routed all together. We have the Arts Acoustic Reverb. Don't look at the preset, stop stealing it, which I have linked with a peak controller. As you can see, this reacts. So every time the note hits, both my delay and my reverb basically turn on. But see how nice that delay is there? This is the delay settings I used within Fruity Delay 3. I love this one. There's the settings there. What this did was just make the sound feel more deep and give the sound more depth, right? Without it, sounds pretty stagnant. We have an EQ bringing the volume down. I just felt like it needed to be brought down a little bit. It was probably too loud in the mix. We have subtle boost there in the high mids. We have sidechain as well, and that is it. It's quite a loose sidechain. It's the high chain, but also not even on 100%. We've got 76% because lots of these notes were on the kick. You don't want it to be like too sidechained, or you're gonna just lose the power. It'll be more like groovy, but it'll lose that kind of power, that thump. So that's why I decided to go for that. And so far we have this. As you can see, I've got some reverb automations here. What these are doing is just creating movement. We've got a big gap there until the notes hit again, so I wanted to fill it with a bit more reverb. And I just did that by automating the wet knob in Arts Acoustic. So that's why I do it this way. I link the overall dry wet to the peak controller so that I can also control the wet knob within the plugin itself. So that's why I do it that way. And that is pretty much it for the main theme of the drop. We also need some backing sounds, which is this one. You might be thinking, what is this sound? This is disgusting. You're right, it is quite a disgusting sound, but it provides a lot of texture in here. So what this sound is doing is just, again, like I said before, making my samples sound a little bit less like boring and sampley, basically. And because the melody is yeah, it's kind of just sharp and kind of boring. So with this, we're providing movement. So what I did was I kept the same melody, but instead I pitched it down. And this is something that really separates like the new guys from the professional guys, right? Because a lot of people would just use this plug sound on the kick, that's it. But with adding this sound, it just provides so much depth to your productions that it just sounds so much more professional. Like I remember even back in the days, Showtech were really good at this, like with the main sound and also a sound in the background, just so rich. And if you can get the mix right on these, it just complements each other so good. For this specific sound, we've got Camel Crusher, Blood Overdrive, a little bit more heavy on the Blood Overdrive because I want this to be less high end, more mids, because I want it to fill up the frequencies where the plucks were missing. We have a Gross Beat, which is only used for fill, I believe. Again, boosting the mids, a lot more low end taken away here because this sound, as I said, is just not in the forefront. This is just there to provide a bit more body, hence why we've also made it mono here. This just means mono, this means stereo. I just find it easier to do this sometimes. I've also done it there as well, just to make sure. Transient master to make it as punchy as the plucks, so it just fits together nicely, and a filter, which is just irrelevant. But this just goes throughout the whole drop. Now, I wasn't completely satisfied with this lead, so I did add something else. This provides so much when you hear it in the full mix. You notice how that also makes it less sampley. It just provides a little bit more smoothness there, and I just love it. So that is the leads. You'll notice it's quite different from old school. Old school was just more about the plucks and the heaviness with that regard, but here I've gone a little bit more on the sound design side because I want it to sound like old school but made by me in the future. You know, I want to make my sounds improve. I don't just want to do the same stuff every single time, and I think this made it stand out from old school a lot. So kick drum is also super important. However, I think this is very much similar to old school. This, I believe, is the only difference, but all of this is the same. I think I processed it a bit heavier. For you, those of you guys who missed out, I will run through it quickly. Just boosting the mids, the high mids specifically, because it's got a nice crunchy layer to this sub. We also boost the sub as well. D-Blue Glitch is just pitching it down at the end of the bar. We have also, again, EQ going crazy because this sound isn't a sub sound. It's a sub sound with mids also, so I need to boost them as well. We also have a Fab Filter Satin, which just, again, makes it crunchy AF. We also have another EQ because that's just me, and a sidechain as well, and the EQ is just for volume, gain staging, I guess. A final boost on the lows, which, not sure if I did that with old school. I think the low end is heavier in this one than in old school. So that's all I did there. So together we have this. Clean and heavy, just how I like it. We also have this top kick. Which is from old school. So this is all old school apart from this sound itself. So this, because it's a triplet melody, I added in this gated kick. So how did I make it gated like that? Good old gross beat. All I did was add in the triplet 1/3 beat preset there, and it just gave it this amazing groove. And I've just mixed this so that it fits perfectly again. You'll notice all of these sounds have their own space. We have the leads, that back end lead, the main lead, that gated triplet kick, and they'll all just fit perfectly. See, I can even turn that up a lot and it still doesn't sound muddy, right? I just decided to have a little bit more subtle. If I was to do it again, I would have it a little bit louder because it's a really cool sound, and it's kind of hardstyle influenced. It's not quite psytrance, it's like that gated hardstyle kind of vibe, so it would provide just a little bit more coolness to the drop. But that's how it is sometimes. You know, you work on a track, you're happy with it, and come back later and you think, oh, I would have done that differently. But that is pretty much the drop. So some reverse kind of sub kicks in there. Again, just providing something different. If your track sounds like everyone else, you need to add one more thing in there, one more technique, one more like ear candy thing, just to help you stand out, because everybody's doing the same kind of stuff. And in big room, you really need to push the boundaries right now to kind of get respect from the general kind of listener now. I also added this in because, yeah, it gives the track a little bit more trance feel. You know, reminds me of the boys W&W a lot, and I thought it would be perfect to have this kind of melodic aspect in there because it's da 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 da. It's just repetitive. So with this sound, I could actually add some melody in there. This is a Vandalism lead called Captivate. Absolutely love this sound. 55 on the mixer track, so we have processed it a little bit different. Camel Crusher, a lot bigger on the overdrive because this sound, again, a sound like this, if it sounds too thin, it sounds whack, right? So we have to really distort this one to make it sound full. That's why I bring in the isotope trash to get a bit more saturation out of the sound. Some EQs there, boosting mids, frequencies, and the highs. Of course, we have FabFilter Satin after the trash. You could see how much I want to F this sound up. Here's the settings I use for FabFilter Satin. Oxford Inflator as well. Another EQ. Another isotope trash. With a sound like this, you can really push it to the limit, right? You know, you hear Armin songs, W&W as well. They really push these kind of leads to the complete limit. We also have H delay and the reverb. Now this one isn't sidechained. As you can see, I've got the sidechain there because I used the other mixer track and just dragged it over. But I didn't enable it because I just guess I didn't need it. I just wanted a little subtle amount of delay and a subtle amount of reverb because this sound is just, again, in the background. I overdid it with the highs, so I knocked a little bit off. Did I knock more? No. This is crazy. I take a bit of highs away and then I add a bit of highs back because in the mixing process over a certain amount of time, you can change the way you feel about it, and that is pretty much it. Sidechain as well, and this also fits really well with the sound. So that is it for drop one. The drums are, I don't think, super important here. What have we got? We've only got some big room claps. Some really tight ones there. I love a tight clap. We also have some white noise as well, but not super important. I think you guys know about effects at this point. We have the east to the west acapella in the fill section. Means we don't really need to add too much. This acid shot I use in a lot of my tracks. Makes it kind of stand out as an Ollie James track, I think. We have some break synths, which we'll go into next. But that makes up the fill, and that makes up drop one. Now, drop two is pretty much the same, but we do have one small change where we actually add a flute sound. Now, let me try and find this flute sound. Here we go. Now this one I was super happy with. Now, themes, you know, with my tracks, themes are super important, right? And this was so nice. I spoke with Skylights about it. He is from China, and we wanted to get that influence in there. So I found this flute sound from Contact. If it's going to load, it's called the Caval. Not necessarily a Chinese kind of sound, but it does sound pretty Asian, especially with the melody. We have the Wonder Flute as well paired together, so they both sound pretty nice. And this made drop two super Asian influence, which I just love. See how much extra it gives the drop, so it really distinguishes drop two from drop one. Just one small subtle change on top, but it gives so much to the track. And then we have this cool drop, which I love. So my head's from the east to the west. Yeah, it gets to the point in a track where I just try stuff, and this is one thing I tried, and it worked out pretty good, you know. Skylights liked it, Chris liked it, so this was just where I was just messing around, and it worked out all right. This is the old Blasterjack style kit. Now I'm pretty sure I did sidechain. Oh, this is just. Yeah, so what I didn't actually layer a kick to it. All I did was process it a bit. As you can see, this is the processing on the kick. I don't just take kicks and just like use them as they are. I like to really push them to the limit so I can get the bassiest tracks, the most high energy tracks. As you can see, I'm just boosting all the frequencies here. Another EQ, and at the end just trying to get more low end, because without all this processing it just doesn't hit the same. Just a lot more in your face. This lead is the one that we heard before. It's just the same one with a white noise added to it. Then we have that like old school Moomaton kind of big room bounce. My heads from the east to the west. And that is it for the drops. The breakdown is just as important in this song. This gives it that theme. We told Chris what the theme was about and what his mission was, and he completely came through as always. Such a good artist. I asked Skylights to help me with the break on this one. He's the machine with breakdowns, and I'm stronger with the drops, so that's why we work so well together. Usually he comes up with the breaks, and I come up with the drops. Mostly it works that way. So this is the breakdown he made. As you can see, he sent me the stems. Here is the pad to begin the track. All his chords, by the way, absolutely amazing chords. This part is empty, no vocals, so we had to have some ear candy stuff in there. That's why I've got that hard style sound. Now you'll notice this flute sound, it's actually from the drop. Now I think I used it in the drop and